Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
And now, broadcasting live on GMN from an undisclosed location in the Arizona desert. Italian by birth, American by choice. Songwriter, poet, freedom activist, Luca Zanna with Love, Guns, and Freedom.
All systems go.
Don't tread.
Here we go. What you just heard, that was Chopin, Requiem, March of the Death, or March is a funeral. It's going to be the death of our republic.
General Dirge.
Yes, and by the way, we have a guest on the air today, Love, Guns, and Freedom, with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. We have a special guest, friend of mine. I met him, I still remember the day, it was the April the 1st. 2005 was a beautiful day in Tombstone, Arizona. I was just driving through for the first time through Arizona, coming from California, attending one event that probably was one of the most important events I ever done since I became an American. I wasn't American yet. I was 30 days from my citizenship. His name is Frosty Wooldridge. Frosty, are you there?
I'm right here, Luca. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my friend. You know, we've been in touch back and forth. I've been following you all these years. I remember 2005, I was 4 weeks before I was becoming a citizen, a naturalized citizen, and I had the chance and the pleasure and the honor to meet you and other like-minded fellow Americans in Tombstone for the Minutemen event on the borders. Let's remind the listeners and who's going to listen to the show in the next few years, what happened exactly the day, why we gathered there together. What happened, Frosty?
Well, what we're facing right now, Luca, and every single American listening to this program, is the onslaught of not only the illegal alien migration invasion of our country, we're also facing an added 100 million more legal immigrants into this country in the next 30 years. And the combination of the illegal alien invasion, which brings in between 500,000 and 700,000 each year, combined with the 1.2 million legal immigrants coming in each year, is simply unsustainable from a environmental standpoint, from a water standpoint, from a energy standpoint, and certainly from exhausting of our resources standpoint. You can also go beyond that, Luca, and talk about the loss of quality of life as our cities become jam-packed, and then our standard of living as more people means jobs remain at the lowest common denominator and the minimum wage. And let me have every listener across America understand this. What does an added 100 million immigrants legally mean? And then when you throw in the illegal immigration, we're talking somewhere between 100, 120 to 150 million more people added to America within the next 36 years. And that is the projection. That's by the Pew Center Research Center. That's by the U.S. Census Bureau. That's also by the U.S. Population Projections by Fogel Martin. And let me just give you a feeling of what 140 to 50 million people added to our country means. It means that our 35 most populated cities will double in population. For example, New York City, currently at 8.3 million, will leap to 16.6 million. Chicago, with 5 million, will hit 10 million. The state of Florida will jump from its current 18 million to double to 36 million. Those are the projections for just the state of Florida. And of course, Texas will add another 10 million, and Los Angeles will go from 11 million to 22 million. Denver, Colorado at 2.5 million will hit 5 million. The state of Colorado will jump from 5 million to 10 million. We now have, for those of you who don't know that, 7 states with water shortages and crises. And in fact, 60 Minutes on Sunday with Leslie Stahl, and you can look it up, 60 Minutes, CBS, on the 15th, which was Sunday of November, did a story on depleting the water by Leslie Stahl. They are already in severe water shortages, and California has 38 million people right now, and they're on course to hit 58 million within 30 years. And so what we're facing is, how do you water that doubling of all those cities? How do you feed? How do you transport? How do you house? How do you work? And how do you medicate and educate all of those people and still keep some balance of environment and, of course, quality of life and certainly standard of living? And the answer is, we won't.
Okay, Frosty,
we can't.
Let me ask you something before we start, because, you're saying all facts and data, they are scientifically proven. Now, before we go there, I would like to introduce you a little better to the audience. You've been studying this for years. You're a book author. And let's talk briefly a little bit about your background. And as I was saying before, we got together that 1st of April 2005 in Tombstone, Arizona, for the same point, the same fears that we have today, for this sort of, at the time it was Bush, was trying to pass this sort of an amnesty. And let's talk a little bit about you briefly, because I would like the listeners to understand that you're not just somebody rambling numbers out of the blue. You've been spending a good part of your last few years of your life studying on this matter and dedicating yourself to this cause. Let's talk a little bit about Frosty Wooldridge first, please.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm a math and science teacher. And as a math and science teacher, I traveled in the summers all over the world. And as a fanatic on a bicycle, I have bicycled over 6 continents now, from the Arctic to Antarctica, and I have traveled through these 6 continents, almost 100 countries. I have been face-to-face with overpopulation and its many ramifications. And during that time, and certainly the last 30 years, I've been writing about it. I have 2 published books, Immigration's Unarmed Invasion, Deadly Consequences, which was a book that followed the famous Governor Richard D. Lamb of Colorado's speech in October of 2003, titled the 8 Ways to Destroy America. And I took those 8 ways to destroy America from his speech with his permission and created a book. I am astounded that 9 years later, these many years later, 9 years actually, the book has come to fruition on so many different levels. And of course, we've added 30 million people to the country in those 9 years. And that crisis is now facilitating itself across the country in situations like Detroit, Michigan, like Los Angeles. We have 140 different countries flooding into our country. In other words, 140 different countries are giving off their citizens. So we've got all of these citizens from 140 countries with 140 different worldviews, with 140 different languages, and certainly 140 different cultures. So we're fracturing and fragmenting our country. My second book on this was published 2 years ago. It's called America on the Brink, the next added 100 million Americans. And this book really discusses the numbers. So as an academician, as a math and science teacher, and as a world traveler, especially when I went through from Hong Kong to Beijing and the Wall of China across India, spent a year in South America, I've really seen up close and personal at 12 miles per hour what's happening to the world, the human race, the species extinction, the climate destabilization. And so I've written about it because I've been really quite sobered by what we face as a civilization. And the reason I have discovered that all of these immigrants are pouring into Canada and America and Europe and Australia is that our four countries, Europe as a country, are the only ones that are stable populations, that the human beings and the citizens of these Western countries have chosen only 2 children per family or less, and so have maintained some sort of equity with Mother Nature and sustainability. And yet the rest of the world, the third world, has been roaring ahead with 80 million more per year net gain around the planet, and they're desperate, they're starving, they're water shortages, and so forth. And so they're coming to America.
Let me get you 1 second there, little interaction. First of all, yes, we are facing, first of all, completely out of control. It's not an immigration problem, it's an invasion problem. This is not just America, it's been part pretty much all the Western world. I mean, Europe, Italy, France, we see what's going on. I would like to ask you, first of all, before we go in, because we have a lot of things we agree, maybe a couple of things we may disagree, but the point here is try to understand on things that we are really all in danger, regardless differences or small differences. We are pretty much now losing the state of sovereignty as a nation, and we are losing the rule of law. This is not going to be anymore a republic. It's already pretty much a phony democracy. That is a bad word itself, the word democracy, as we'll know. But the point now today, with the fact that now we have for the first time, really, for such a big act of executive order, this is not just some executive order on minor things. Even Reagan, President Reagan, when he passed the amnesty, there was behind, even was wrong, there was an act of Congress. This is something completely bypassing Congress, and we are declaring for the first time now really that officially Mr. Obama, he will become the new Caesar, the new Julius Caesar of what used to be America, the Republic, this United States of America. Now, first of all, cui bono, who is going to benefit of this illegal aliens invasion? What do you think? I mean, besides the big businesses of the voting machine of the Democratic voting machine, what do you think really is the final plan? This is more than just some extra cheap works or cheap jobs and cheap wages and some votes. I think there is something more than that. What do you think?
Well, that's correct. What is happening is that the corporations, the corporatocracy, if you will, of the United States, run by these huge corporations, actually have a different worldview. They want to pack as many people into America as possible so that they expand their markets for production out of the third world with the kind of slave labor that they gain from that, 40 cents an hour on average. Then they sell the products here, and they want an expanding market, an ever-expanding market. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about the quality of life. They certainly don't care about anybody's standard of living. All they care about is the profits that they make. And when you explode populations, you explode demand for food, you explode demand for automobiles and housing and all that goes with that. So that is what's really the heart of this massive corporation and corporatocracy that's pushing for more and more immigration, both legally and certainly making sure that no one enforces the illegal immigration laws, of course, which are so either in violation of the Constitution, but again, so many people in Congress, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, are bought off by these corporations, and that's why we have not had our laws. It's illegal it's a $10,000 fine, up to 5 years in prison, to hire, to transport or house an illegal alien migrant here in the United States. Same thing goes on in Mexico. You can't You can't be in a country illegally. It's in violation of the laws, and yet we have so much bribery going on and so much of a thrust for more market consumption. That's why you see this going on.
Frosty, this is coming from a guy that wasn't born here, as you know very well. And, I have a point here. When I look at this from outside and from the perspective of a person that who took his time, it took me 7 years or more to pretty much follow the process. And I realized immediately that this is not about anymore just profit for corporations. In my opinion, it's according to facts. Like in Europe, they need to destroy national sovereignty at every level. Okay, Europe is gone. Italy, France, Germany pretty much doesn't exist anymore. England, it's all on paper, but also now not just on when you come down to language and culture, but also the point of really there is no more the fiber of society that pretty much represent a nation. The idea of the final goal, in my opinion, that the people behind the corporations is just the first layer that we can see. But I see there are a bunch of the small elite of architects that pretty much what they're trying to do is to create a global government. And to create a global government, you must destroy sovereign nations. And America pretty much is the last sovereign nation left out there, even though we had the last few hours of our sovereignty. But the point is, when are we going to have, in the next few months, a few more millions, 6, 7, 10 millions of legalized former illegal aliens, and they will be able to vote, and they will be able to pretty much be controlled by the mass media propaganda system. They will start to think with the brain and the logic of third world countries they were from. That's why I'm telling you, for example, I see a lot of friends from Europe. They have a very hard time to come here. I have family members, very hard time, and they come with sponsors, they come with money. It's still very, very hard. And you see completely the double standard when you see people coming from the southern border, and with all their poor stories, and I feel sorry at the same time, but I also feel sorry for us, and I feel sorry that there is no more equal justice for all, because why, if I am a guy coming from Italy or from France or from Germany, I should be treated like pretty much I have less chances to be here than when I have, for example, people coming from Guatemala jumping on the bus and having also a ticket paid by Homeland Security, and Obama pretty much opening the gates of our nation. So I believe that there is, for me, more than just a corporation problem. There is also a plan to completely destabilize. How do you say this? You are the professor here. To destabilize, destabilization, okay, of this country. And think about when we're going to have 20 more million voters that pretty much don't even know how to speak English. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's correct. I would, and look for certain, you are right on the money to add that appreciation of exactly what's happening to our country. And here is another thing to appreciate. I also write for 15 different national news service websites. Newswithviews.com, which is a conservative one, but also Freedom's Phoenix, which is a libertarian, Liberty News Online, which is conservative, and Op-Ed News out of New York, which is liberal. And, of course, many other ones, American Chronicle, and you can go on down the line. And what I try to do is educate everyone, liberal, conservative, libertarian, independent. It doesn't make any difference, because in the final analysis, we now have 41.3 million Americans in this country who were not born in this country. We're now seeing the fissures and the cracks that are happening because of that. To give you an example, we now have beheadings from the Muslims that are now 7 million. We have beheadings. We have Sharia law being implemented in Detroit, Michigan. We're seeing honor killings. We've seen the beheadings in the processing plant there in Oklahoma of the lady by a Muslim just in August because she didn't want to become a Muslim, so he beheaded her. You're also seeing arranged marriages, which means that the Muslim religion does not tolerate women's rights, does not tolerate freedom of choice or freedom of speech. It doesn't allow women to choose to wear what they want to wear or even go to school. And, of course, the Muslim religion does not tolerate gays. In other words, it doesn't even tolerate anybody else with a different religion. So you're seeing this tribal religion start to manifest itself. It's already doing that in Europe, and it doesn't quit. It's very aggressive, and it literally has only one prime directive, and that's to convert or kill all non-believers.
Frosty,
So
where are these? Because you talk a lot about environment, and I agree with you. I mean, we must be responsible. There is a lot of things going on. Look at the borders. I mean, completely trashed, with all these tons and tons of waste. But where are all these groups? Like, for example, I heard all these groups that are very concerned about ecology. Technically, even for me, they're way more too much politicized. They have a political agenda. But I never heard, for example, really talking about illegal immigration groups like the Sierra Club. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you're more informed than me. I see many people on the, let's say, they call it left or whatever you want to call it, on the environmental groups. Why do they do not speak up loud enough about this serious problem? Because illegal immigration, especially in the southern states like Arizona, Texas, I mean, it's a great problem with also environment. Don't you agree with me? I mean, there's something
That's correct, and I was a member of the Sierra Club for over 30 years, and then had to resign because it would not address, population, because it was on the hot spot and the tender spot of immigration, which is a very delicate subject in this country, but must come to the forefront because it is the driver that's going to add this next 138 million more people on our way to adding well over 300 million people when we have been a stable population since 1970, because the average female in this country has averaged only 2.03 children since 1970. But the immigration thing also gets down to the racial connotation. And so because the United States has had to deal with, the whole issue of racial prejudice and racism and bias, then most Americans are afraid to deal with it. And so what has happened is there has been a non-compliance by the Sierra Club or the Audubon Society or even Greenpeace or certainly all of the organizations that are trying to save the United States of America and our environment won't address the one thing that's destroying it. Now, just like on NBC or CBS on Sunday with Leslie Stahl, she steered totally. What she did was like she had a great problem here. In other words, she jumped in a little plastic dinghy, and she and the camera crew, paddled around the Titanic, if you will. And the Titanic already has the big hole. It's sinking, and so she reported that it has a big hole.
Yes.
Well, so what? We know that, but she didn't interview anyone that said what has to happen or what we can do to change that big hole, plug it up, or literally solve it by interviewing somebody like Paul Ehrlich. Or somebody like Frosty Wooldridge, or like Jack Alpert, or like Bromwell Alt, or like Diana Hall. So what you have is this kind of bias and fear factor that we won't touch the immigration factor because of all of the racial, ethnic situations that are surrounding it.
Frosty, what do you think is going to happen since first of all, this show is being recorded right now? It's going to be going on the air on Sunday. Unfortunately, by Sunday, things already be happening. In a couple hours. Today is Thursday right now, November the 20th, 2014, and we have Mr. Obama pretty much ready to go live, maybe in an hour or so, about this immigration. What do you think is going to happen? What is going to be the next step of Congress? You think it's going to be a reaction? Is a real stern reaction or just some talk? What do you think?
Well, as a matter of fact, there's going to be some tremendous reaction because, first of all, the House Republicans have placed Obama on official notice to stop the usurpation of the United States Constitution with his illegal executive amnesty. This executive amnesty was illegal just a year ago when he gave somewhere around 900,000 illegal alien children a free pass. Emotionally, it got through. The Congress didn't stand up. And so everyone lost, and these kids got to come in. That was the precursor at that point of 60,000 children being ushered through Mexico from Central and South America to jump our borders this last summer in July and August.
And that's my point, Frosty. Frosty, that's my point. I mean, Congress, has been allowing this gradually, and I think it's guilty of this one. Even, of course, they were minor offenses. They were still breaking of the law. They were still pretty much act of selective enforcement. And now I wouldn't be surprised that if he was able to do, or Mr. Obama was able to do some sort of an amnesty with the DREAM Act for 900,000 children or whatever, now why not doing this with their fathers or parents? I mean, I think it's almost like a little too late. I mean, it's never too late, but it's kind of hypocritical now to start to scream, because I think 1 year ago, this should have been pretty much already enough to impeach the bastard and enough to say, you're breaking pretty much not enforcing our laws. And this is almost a treason right now, because in my opinion, it is more than just having a problem with immigration. We are pretty much also opening the borders to hell, and we have no idea who is coming through that gate. And I believe that when you start to put 6, 7 millions of people able pretty soon to vote and to alter our republic and also our legislations and our system, this is an act of complete tyranny, and also an act of pretty much endangering this republic, because now we're going to have 6 million people ready to pretty much be able to vote. And this is scary. I mean, I think it's very serious.
Well, not only the 6 million, there's somewhere between 12 and 20 million altogether.
Yeah, and with their parents and the migration chains, of course. So they
right,
can bring
and chain migration. And it's changing the demographic of our civilization. And it's also changing, again, how do you incorporate 140 different worldviews to this country? And of course the answer is you can't, you won't, it won't work. It's absolutely incompatible. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm going to read this because I want everyone to appreciate this. This is a quote by the former James Welch, the Associate General Counsel to the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service back in 1991. And he said, and I am quoting, "Immigrants devoted to their own cultures and religions are not influenced by the secular, politically correct facade that dominates academia, news media, entertainment, education, religious, and political thinking today," he said. "These immigrants claim the right not to assimilate, and the day is coming when the question will be, how can the United States regulate the defiantly unassimilated cultures, religions, and mores of foreign lands? Such immigrants say their traditions trump the U.S. legal system. Balkanization of the United States has begun," unquote. That's probably the most powerful indictment against continued mass immigration that anyone could do, because Immanuel Kant, the great philosopher, said there are two things that destroy a civilization. And those two things are language and religion. And if you get so many incompatible religions and languages, and here in Denver, Colorado, where I live, we have 172 different languages. Please, dear listener, get a hold of that. 172 different languages in the Denver public schools. That's why we have a 55 to 67% dropout flunk-out rate. And please understand that if you have an illiterate populace, and we now have 42 million Americans who can't read or write. That's been shown by the American Reading Foundation, and another 50 million who can't read past the 4th grade level.
Yes, and also, I would like to remind this for the listeners. By the way, I would like to first of all try to reach out people that normally they have a different opinion on immigration, and normally I say it because it doesn't mean anything anymore to be Republicans. Look, if you believe that Senator McCain is a man that cares about immigration, you are completely out of mind, okay? I resigned the Republican Party a few months ago for many reasons, and one of the reasons is because both parties have been bought out by the globalists. But my point is, this is especially for the Democrats, that they're really pretty much thinking that their man, Mr. Obama, is doing the right thing. you work for a living, okay? Many of the the Democrats, people supposedly they are blue collars. And I wasn't in this country in the 80s, but I heard stories, working people, working in factories or working in different type of business like the home business, building business. They used to have wages. There were wages that you could pretty much have enough to, as a family man, as a single man, take care of your own family. Now with the new wages that we have, 40 years later, 35 years later, we pretty much, that the wages are so low that if you are in carpeting or even just in the factory business, because of illegal immigration and also overcrowding, because now when they're going to put in the forced market 8 more millions of legal workers, what do you think is going to happen to your wages? If you are in the unions, how do you think you're going to pretty much sustain your lifestyle, your basic, right now time's already tough. How can you, Democrat or supporter of Obama, believing that the illegal immigration, or even better, this amnesty, it can pretty much help you and help your family? That's my main question, seriously. And for the Republicans, that they still have ham on their eyes and they still believe that people like McCain or Graham or some other people like used to be Bush, they're doing this because they know what's going on. You are insane too. I mean, how can we reach out the Democrats, Frosty, and let them understand that this is terrible for everybody, especially for the people working for a living?
Well, that's exactly correct. And when I address, Americans with my speaking and certainly with my commentaries, and again, if you go to newswithviews.com, which is the easiest, go down the flag there, and you'll see my name and my series. My series is titled America and Western Countries Being Turned into Third World Refugee Camps. And that series is 10 parts long. And the 10th part shows you what you can do to change course and get activated and save your children from this future that we see coming at us at full steam. And that is this. There's no end to the line. There's 80 million net gain around the world every year. We're adding a billion more humans every 12 years now, and they're desperate for water and food and housing and a decent standard of life. And so they're flooding into America and Canada and so forth. And if we don't stop that by our laws and by having borders, then we simply will become part of that human quagmire, if you will, overrun and overwhelmed, and certainly our ethos, our language, and our cohesiveness as a civilization, as a country, will not survive this. And certainly the U.S. Constitution will not survive 140 different worldviews. I can tell you that the Middle Eastern, Pakistani or the whatever Muslim that comes into this country, their worldview does not equate to democracy or women's rights, and so you've got that battle coming on. If you look at the Mexican, Spanish, Latino approach to what's going on, you also know why their country, Mexico or even Central America, is failing, because they don't have the kind of worldview that we have here in America. So the key here is whether you're a Democrat or independent or a Republican or even libertarian, doesn't make any difference. You're going to be caught up, or your children will be caught up in this massive population overload and this sociological overload of this multicultural mix that is incompatible. And it's totally incompatible. You can see it in Europe. It's not working. You saw Sweden burn last year. You see 99% of the rapes in Norway right now are committed by Muslim immigrants. You see 2 London Englands right now where people get their heads cut off in the middle of the street if they go into the Muslim sector of London, England. There's a British sector of London and then the Muslim sector. Same thing in Paris, France. There's over 70 no-go zones where Sharia law now is the main gig.
Exactly.
And you don't dare go into the Muslim zone.
Frosty.
And so that's the tragedy we're facing here in this country, besides the population overload.
Exactly. My opinion, this is beside, of course, the greed factor, the corporation we said, the voting situation, because the Democrats thinking that they're going to have few extra millions of voters, there probably would be. At the end of the day, I still believe that the main reason that this is happening everywhere, as I said, this is not just an American problem. This is Europe. It's gone. Okay, Italy. I didn't go back to Italy in the last 8 years, and I heard stories from my family. It's like living pretty much in another country, and it breaks my heart for many reasons. Unfortunately, I believe this is pretty much part of the globalist, because the idea of creating a new world order, a global government, it is not a conspiracy. I mean, Bush father, the president, he mentioned that concept more than 100 times, I guess, during his time, and many other presidents, and of course Obama, he wants it, Bush son, I mean, this is the Clintons, all these families, all this group of elite, they've been pushing that very much the last 100 years. Now, to create a global government, you must pretty much level everybody to the same type of poverty, to the same type of desperation, and more important, I really believe this is what they believe. They say order out of chaos. That means they need to, first of all, destroy everything, and they will create a new order out of the destruction of our lives, our system, because this system cannot be survive for long. I mean, especially now, look at the school system, look at the welfare system. How much more can we go? When we have another 20 million of people, they're going to pretty much be part of it. And, they don't put, because there is a myth. Let's talk about it. There is a myth that the illegal aliens or the poor people working, they're going to bring into the system more than what they receive. I don't have in front of me all the quotas, but probably you can help me out there. It is a lie. Unfortunately, many, especially when they start to have access to the welfare system of with their children and the newborn, what they bring in is not even a fraction of what we spend to pretty much support the new whatever they are. So what are the numbers?
That's correct. I'll give you some figures on that, Luca.
Please go ahead.
According to the economist Edwin Rubenstein, illegal immigration and legal immigration into this country, because there's so much, unfortunately, unskilled workers and illiteracy, even in their own language. They're certainly illiterate in English language. $346 billion a year across 15 federal agencies goes out to children and parents in food stamps, EBT cards, certainly for free lunches, and breakfasts, and then of course English is a second language, which never works anyway because they go back to speaking. But to also pay for their babies, prenatal care, postnatal care, we pay for Section 8 housing, and so this is a burden. Every illegal and pretty much legal immigrants coming in, you have to understand there's 100,000 Somali Bushmen and women now inheriting nothing but welfare up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they're creating gangs up there that are spreading drugs everywhere. So they're finding out also that the gangs and the MS-13 gangs and so forth going on in Southern California. Once they're intractable. Once they impregnate themselves. So nothing is going to happen in a good way with all this. And of course, as the population goes up, the wages and the salaries of American citizens absolutely go down. That is a fact of the democracy and of course capitalism or any other system, and that's why the American people are going to lose. And in the end, not only the American people will lose, but also the immigrants, because we will simply drag the country down to a third world status.
Frosty, the last 60 seconds, let's say we have almost 1 minute and enough. What is the solution for you, if we can sum it up?
The solution is this. Each American citizen who cares about the future and cares about their children, you must empower yourself by joining organizations that are feeling the same as you and taking action. Join, number one, www.capsweb.org, capsweb.org, Californians for Population Stabilization, run by Executive Director Joanne Weidman. Brilliant, coming up on close to 500,000 members. NumbersUSA.org, NUMBERS, USA.org, with Roy Beck, almost 1.5 million members, FAIR, FAIRUS.org, with, of course, Dan Stein. We're talking close to 3 million active members taking action by sending in. I just sent in 2 faxes today. These faxes are pre-written letters. You punch a button, you send it to your senators and your House rep, the president, other powerful areas, and you get action on that because so many people sending so many phone calls and faxes forces the government to do your bidding. So don't feel like you're alone out there, and absolutely, and on my 10-part series on newswithviews.com, you can send in letters to Talk of the Nation at talk@npr.org. You certainly want to talk to 60 Minutes and ask them, demand to them, implore them to talk about what it's going to mean to add 138 million more people to America in the next 30 years. And I have all that information on that number, part 10 of my series on turning America into a third world refugee camp. And also in Roy Beck's fantastic website, you'll see 2 videos. One's called Immigration Gumballs and Poverty. It's 5 minutes long. It shows you by very clear gumball demonstration why it's totally futile to keep adding 1 or 2 or 3 million people to the U.S. every year when they keep adding 80 million in their own countries. We solve nothing except we destroy our own country. And then he has a 10-minute video called Immigration Off the Charts. Share that with all of your family members across the board, across your networks, to educate Americans. And the goal is to create a consciousness shift. Enough people who understand what we're facing intellectually then take action, which creates a critical mass shift, which then leads to a tipping point forward to a viable and sustainable country, civilization.
Frosty.
Because if you stand by and watch it...
You're a machine gun, Frosty. You know, you need to have a special NFL license, full auto, 700 rounds per minute. Okay. You're great. No, you're great. You're great. Doing great. I'm a lot of information. I'm glad. You know, the time, unfortunately, is going by. All I wanted to say, thank you very much. If people want to reach you, do you have a website where they can read more about you and what you do, and also buy your books?
Yes, you can buy both books at Amazon and or the publisher 1-888-280-7715. You can go to my website, howtolivea.lifeofadventure.com, and you can contact me there. I will answer any questions. I just finished a 20-part series on overpopulation in America. I can send that to you. The key here is education, become aware, and then take actions, fellow Americans, and that way we have a chance to survive the 21st century.
And that was Frosty Wooldridge. A lot of information. I wish we had more time. All I can say, we don't need to agree on everything. Frosty and me, we met the first time, the 1st of April, 2005, in Tombstone, Arizona, during the Minutemen. And I know Frosty has some ideas on some issue we may be different, but we are united here as Americans because we understand, first of all, the immigration problem, it is not just immigration. It is really the survival of America itself. Before even we go to the political problem, before even we go to the economical problem, the welfare problem, we have also a situation here that, think about, must be assimilation. As you can hear from my accent, I wasn't born here. I am not against immigration. I am an immigrant myself. I came here. The only thing I believe that as a people, as human beings, come to America, it is not a right. If you were born here, you have a right. I'm here and I had the privilege and I had to follow the process to become one of you. So that's the first thing. I really believe also that every one of us coming from another country to America, we should have the same opportunities. Should not be different type of classes or privileged classes. For example, to give amnesty to somebody means that you penalize pretty much all the people like myself who came here previously and took the time and the money and the effort to follow the rules, to comply. And this is not fair. This is not fair. And more important, I believe really in assimilation. First of all, immigration should be always subject to America's interests first. We should not have here open doors every time, anytime we want. We should have here open doors for people when we need people, because the first interest should be always the American people. And this is, of course, coming from a point that I was even born here, and I still understand this concept. So this is what I'm saying. And we may have differences of opinion on some other topics, but seriously, guys, Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter. If you believe that as Americans, you still want to have some sort of resemble of this republic and to keep your quality of life, your work, your wages, your services, even the welfare that I do not really believe. But at the end of the day, if somebody has the right to have access to welfare, it's supposed to be the American people first. Why should we give this now to share with the rest of the world? How many more millions is going to be enough? There are 7 billion people out there. I'm sure almost everybody, or at least many of them, would like to come here. Okay? When enough is going to be enough? Don't you understand that when you have pretty much a number of people coming to America without assimilation, without giving the time, and also to be able to assimilate them, is going to be the destruction of this country. That's all I can say. So I would like to just to remind you, the show, the purpose, it is not to divide, it is to unite. You know, I don't care about if you're Republican or if you're a Democrat. As I said, we may have differences at some time in some socioeconomics. I believe that, you know, what is mine and what is yours, and I work and I believe in charity. I do not believe in government coercion, but at the same time I also believe that as Americans, when it comes down to very important topics like sovereignty, a nation is a nation because we have borders. We have borders and we have laws that we can pretty much determine who comes in this country. We must know and we must be aware, and we must always put the interest of the American people first. That's the bottom line. The opposite is exactly now what's happening under Bush, under Obama. They want to put first the interest of the New World Order first. And Americans and America must die. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Another guest on the way. And then we will talk about guns. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. Ciao.
We're the Minutemen, we're gonna stand for our country, we'll fight till the end. We're the Minutemen, we're gonna stand for our country, we'll fight till the end. We're the Minutemen, we're common people, we're just women and men, but our borders will defend. Against invaders, against the traitors, against Vicente, the Mexican dictator. Dear Presidente, I am not a vigilante, but we'll say to Mr. Fox that we'll stand on like rocks under the sun of the desert, in the darkness of the night. All we want is to defend our country, our rights. Hell yeah! We're the Minutemen, we're gonna stand for our country, we'll fight till the end. We're the Minutemen, we're common people, we're just women and men, but our borders will defend. Against invaders, against the traitors, against Vicente, the Mexican dictator. La la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Luca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Luca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network.
Wake up, America, before it's too late. They're trying to make you fade away. They're trying to kill your faith.
Hi everybody, this is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. Today's show, as you've been listening so far, we're talking about something very important. Illegal immigration. I call it invasion because this is not more about immigration. This is about the dissolution and the destruction of America. They come pretty much the globalists, not just with Obama. This started a long time ago. And I would like to include also Reagan, even of course nothing compared to what's happening right now. Even of course was done still with Act of Congress. Amnesty is never a good word. Amnesty, in my opinion, is something that pretty much is a disgrace, especially in the eyes of law-abiding people that have been respecting the laws, and especially for illegal immigrants that they had to come here all the way, following the pattern to citizenship, and realizing that now all you have to do to pretty much be included in this amnesty. And it's just another story. It's something that it's hard to describe. And what I'm really concerned today, it is not just about losing wages or our social services pretty much going out of business. I'm talking about what I'm really concerned is to have millions of former illegal aliens that now just with a stroke of a pen, they become legals, and pretty soon they will become citizens, and at the end of the day, they will be able to vote. And that will be the destruction at the end of our republic completely. Today I have with me a special guest, a lady that we've been sharing many battles together in California when I used to live in California. And I've been following her the last few years. She's been an active, she's a woman, she's a mother. And also she believes that at the end of the day, it's up to any one of us to step up and be the special person to try to rescue the day. We can't wait for the superheroes. We must look at ourselves in the mirrors to pretty much become the hero that we need. We have today Mrs. or Miss, we'll find out soon, Chelene Nightingale. Chelene, how you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Luca, so very much for having me on your show, and thank you for the introduction. And we are, Luca, right before your show, as you know, I was calling representatives, GOP representatives.
Which one?
I called several. I was calling people out of California, like Bud McKean, Kevin McCarthy. I wasn't just calling in my district. I was calling as many GOP representatives in California as possible, just giving them zip codes, for each of the various different counties. And I was very upset.
Exactly.
I didn't like what I was hearing.
Tell us first of all what you were hearing. What this GOP now supposedly is going to have the Senate and the House. What they were saying to you?
Oh, basically, and this was pretty unanimous. None of them wanted to give out any details of what they may or may not do. A couple of the offices said they had no plans. One representative's assistant was actually pretty forthright. And this one was Bud McKean's office, because Bud is no longer in office. I think he termed out or he retired, whatever the case may be. And the rep said, look, here's the deal. We're packing. We're out of here. And as far as what the GOP is going to do, he said, from what I've heard, it looks like they're going to probably wait for the next 2 years to see what the Democrats do. Wait for the powder to dry. That sort of rhetoric was what I was hearing.
Wow.
And I said, that is not what we are to do, and that is not what this GOP Congress that Americans just entrusted are meant to do. You need to take action and not wait for 2 years. What this POTUS or emperor, let's just call him what he is, Emperor Obama.
Yeah,
not a president. It's not POTUS.
But this is something.
I said, you cannot wait. Something has to be done now. What he's doing is unlawful, unconstitutional. I don't think he should be in office anyway, but if you're not going to do anything about that matter, then at least impeach him.
Yeah.
And then anything could be reversed later. But get him out of office.
I'm not surprised. I hope this was just an exception. Unfortunately, I believe you're right. And I believe this is happening almost everywhere. The fact that Obama, not just with this coming amnesty or de facto amnesty that he's doing, he's been doing many other things completely out of his reach. I mean, if we still believe that we are in a constitutional republic and there is some sort of separation of powers, I mean, he's been doing so many things. And now he believes that he pretty much is nothing new. And the fact that fellow Americans still believe that the Republican Party at the headquarters levels, I'm not talking about state level, local level, maybe still decent people out there, I'm talking about in Washington, where corruption pretty much runs freely among two parties. There is any real difference? Let's not forget that Senator McCain and Lindsey Graham and the same President Bush, they all been pushing this amnesty for years. They've been pushing it for years. And this is not just about an amnesty to get extra votes for the Democratic Party or to get extra labor, cheap labor for the big corporation. This is about pretty much a part that was in plan long time ago to completely destroy the fiber of America, and this is my personal opinion based on facts though, to create a famous New World Order that pretty much has been planned a long time ago, and Bush father has been pretty much mentioned it many times. And to create a New World Order, you need to destroy the sovereignty of every nation. The last sovereign nation or semi-sovereign nation left out there with a constitution and Bill of Rights completely different from any other country out in the world was America. After they will give an amnesty to millions of illegal aliens being able to vote, they will change the fiber into a democracy that already pretty much they've been telling us, both presidents from both parties. And at that point, at the polls, they will pretty much destroy every rights we have left. What do you think about my analysis? Am I too far off?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I do want to say this. I only called representatives out of California. GOP representatives. So I don't want to say, obviously, I don't want to say it was all of GOP. I know for a fact Steve King in Iowa, he's one of the rare ones.
Yeah.
He is like a Ron Paul. I really like that man. If he ran for office, and as you know, I'm not in the GOP, but I would consider supporting him. I am when we are done with your show, I am going to call Steve King's office. That was what I was going to do next. And let him know what I heard from other, GOP representatives.
Yes.
What he has to say.
Yes, and by the way, I would like to pretty much talk not just to the Republicans, people that they really need to show some strength here. We cannot just say, okay, we don't want to rock the boat. After all, we have the party, Republican Party is better than the other side. No, they're doing exactly the same thing as the other side. They're allowing, sometimes even just being silent and do not do anything proactive. You're pretty much condoning and aiding this criminal behavior. But more important, I would like to reach the fellow Democrats or whatever call themselves Democrat out there. If there is any difference between Republican in these days, I don't see any anyway. But I would like to say, guys, if you work for a living, if you have wages, okay, you weren't born rich and wealthy with a family that pretty much have oil wells or things like that, and you understand that your wages, all our wages in America for working people, went down since the last amnesty under Reagan. And I'm saying, yes, it was wrong. And even, of course, was passed with Congress, of course. At least there was an act of Congress. It wasn't a complete act of tyranny, like by executive order, under Obama. But let's put it this way. How you think your wages are going to improve when you're going to have on the labor market another few millions of workers, legal, that pretty much they will be able to work for anything that you give them? Because these people come from anywhere from countries where their average salary pretty much during their month, it is what you used to get maybe in a week or even less. So don't you understand this is going to pretty much destroy also the future of your children and also your future right now? I mean, I used to have friends in the carpentering business that probably you know some of them. For example, like Raymond Herrera, that in Victorville, we used to spend times together doing videos before I left California. And he was a carpenter. He used to make in the 80s much, much more money than, I'm talking about $30, $40 an hour, when now he can barely get minimum wage if he wants to compete with the wages of the regular carpenter right now that they're illegal aliens. So I think this is something we should reach out, especially the Democrats, in my opinion, because they think they're going to have maybe some extra votes. Doesn't matter. They're going to all be dead. We're all going to be dead. Don't you think, Chelene?
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing, and I want to especially speak to the black community, if you don't mind for a second. There is a organization, nonprofit, Center for Immigration Studies, and CIS. And they have put out several reports in regards to the effects of illegal immigration on the black community. And CIS isn't the only organization that's put out reports regarding this issue.
Yeah.
All the reports show that the black community is most affected by illegal immigration when it comes to the job market. So if you are listening, Obama has really turned his back on the black community. If he does this emperor action this evening, you need to understand that. He is not your friend. You know, all along, he was an ally of Saul Alinsky. And I know people didn't want to hear that, but that is just the truth. The facts are out there. You can even read it in his own words, hear it in his own words. He never intended to go into office to help America. He went in there to fundamentally transform America into his radical philosophies. And that isn't about liberty. He promised that too, and I think people they didn't want to hear it. They thought, he means change from Bush. And I can understand that. Because, Luca, you and I are not fans of either of the two main parties. So I do understand wanting a change, but they allowed the color of his skin. We're going to talk about racism. When you're looking at race to support a candidate, you've got to stop. You have to look at what the candidates say. You have to look at their actions. You have to look at their history.
I know this was
forget it.
This was the biggest fraud, and they knew it. These people behind the scenes, pretty much have psychologists, they have sociologists, they understand, and they have computer models, by the way, and they understand when it's time to switch the face of their puppets, okay? And they got whatever they could have got out of Bush as much as they could. And people, they were ready to revolt. So they did a new face, and they got Obama, and they continue exactly what Bush was doing, but multiplied by 10. And the fact now that even many Democrats, I heard, start to see it. But the sad thing is, they don't want to admit it sometimes because it is their pride. And there is nothing wrong to be wrong if you honestly, generally, you were doing something because you really believe that was good. But when you realize that this is some evil plan here to pretty much harm all of us and the future generation, it's time to put your pride aside and start to say, I've been completely duped, I'm being frauded. And this is the situation now. I'm very concerned because in the next few years, we will see something that we never really face in this country anymore. Anarchy is pretty much is becoming now the new rule of law because selective enforcement is going to lead us to anarchy. How can I feel like now I should follow a law when the first man, the man that's supposed to represent this nation as the president, is being pretty much breaking every law on the book? We have already immigration laws on the book, and this man is being completely selectively enforcing them. And so many other situations, not just illegal immigration. So this is going to create a sort of an anarchy, unfortunately, that I think they wanted it. It's like a chess game, because the next step is going to be for them, if people do not follow the laws, and all we have to do is make one little mistakes, or just do not comply with this new fraudulent Obamacare that we know was a fraud. We have all the information more than ever now. And then at that point, we're going to be persecuted and we'll be arrested and be treated like criminals and domestic terrorists. So this is pretty much the situation. But I would like to reach out to anybody out there, anybody's listening to this broadcasting, especially people that they think that their man, Obama, is doing the right thing. Think about it. Use your logic. Do not use anymore the mantra coming down from Washington. How is going to be good for you as an American worker, for your wages, for your social services that already been stretched out? We're already pretty much out of business as a nation is bankrupt. How can it be good for you and your kids to have an extra few millions or several millions? And the chain migration that you can take now with the visas, you can bring all your family down here. It's going to pretty much triplicate, at least. So how can it be good for you, American worker? People works in the unions. I mean, whatever you want to believe to, So this is the situation now. And all I can do, I'm trying to put a little bit of a seed of information out there. And let's not think with somebody else's brain. Let's think with our own heart and our own brain. Chelene, I would like to talk a little bit about you, because I know normally I start the show talking about my guests and then we go into topics. Now we started from the opposite. We started to talk about this illegal aliens invasion.
Oh, that's because I think, we had to do, because this is the issue today. But, it's something that had to be covered. So,
but the reason why I want to talk about you, it is not just because we want to let people know who you are. Of course, it's important. Because for me, the model of you is the proof that a regular person, a mother, a working lady, somebody that anyway is a person that, is just a regular, no degree in political skills, so just a regular person, when understood that this country it is really in a very bad shape and our future and present are in danger, you step up and you became an activist, as they call it. And more important, I call it as a person who cares and try to do something. And you've been doing a lot of different things. Some, they've been more, taking more energies, like when you ran for governor. Some just even been doing with your radio show. But you try to do everything you can. And that's, for me, the solution. If I want to look at the proactive approach, how we can stop all this. If every one of us has the will to do something, we are millions. And we would overwhelm our enemies. So please, I would like to share your life, especially your activist life, what you do, how you wake up, how did you wake up to this mess, and what you're doing now, and what you've been doing recently politically. So people maybe can get ideas and get inspired. Go ahead, Chelene Nightingale.
Well, to start, I wouldn't say it was apolitical. I've been voting since I turned voting age. My parents were Republicans. I grew up under a Reagan administration, And my dad was in the military, so I came from a very conservative, patriotic, Christian home. But, my generation, the X generation, in the 70s and 80s, we had a mixture of teachers. Half the teachers looked like they were, from the 50s and very conservative and, we received an education. But the other half were the radical hippies that had graduated from college and entered the teaching force. And so, it was a very interesting dynamic, but this is a public education system. And so I did develop very socialist theories and ideas, and that's why they have Common Core today. They know this. And so when I graduated, yes, I loved Ronald Reagan. I did. But when I left, I think the very first election for me was with Ross Perot. And I like the fact that he was an independent, so that was where my support went. And I, could be seen on campus at others. I remember very clearly, marching in a gay pride parade. So I very much, transformed into probably quite the opposite of how I'd been raised. But over the years, I went back, instead of being the prodigal daughter, I went back to Christ. And then a couple of years later, I, got married. And a few years after that, I became a mom. But during that time, during those years, 9/11 happened. Of course, we're talking about, September 11th, 2001. And that shook me up. It shook me up because I was watching the news, and it didn't seem right. I worked in the entertainment industry at the time, and I just remember looking at my husband saying, this just seems like a movie. Now, I didn't go and explore the truth. I just was curious. It didn't make me, politically active at the time, but I started paying more attention to who I was voting for. I have to say I did vote for George Bush. I did. We're talking junior, of course. And then in 2004, still working in the entertainment industry, I worked with a guy that had been in the Marines, and his mom was a legal immigrant from Mexico. And he was the one who introduced me to an organization and to a guy named Joe Turner, who I believe you know.
Yes.
And he started, trying to wake me up to the border issue. It took him a while. It did. Once I woke up, I decided to get really active in about 2005, early 2005. I started attending events, organizing events. Then I struck a union with Ted Hayes in 2006, early 2006, and we just started organizing marches and rallies together. We had several of them. When the Ramos and Campion issue, the two Border Patrol agents that were falsely incarcerated, I got aboard that. I was just outraged by that story. And that's when I opened my eyes to the fact that the GOP and the Democrats were basically, aligned with one another.
Exactly.
I was very disappointed in Bush, who I had voted for. And, I organized a march in Hollywood, Free the Texas Three, which was for Ramos Campion and Deputy Sheriff Gilmer Hernandez, all three who really were political prisoners for doing their job. And that's when I realized there's more to this border immigration issue. There's much more. So for those who've watched, the movies of The Matrix, you will understand this. I took the red pill.
Chelene, tell us a little bit about your radio show. We have 2 more minutes. Go ahead. Tell us how people can find you, your website, and everything else. Go ahead.
Great. Well, I took the red pill, went down the rabbit hole. I ran for office. Now today I host a blog talk show called The Wake Up Mission. You can find that at blogtalk.com/The Wake Up Mission. We're also on iTunes. We are live Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. We have guests. We're a guest on our show. And we talk about, the headlines, commentary, business, and history of the day, and some entertainment too. But our mission is definitely to wake up people and to provide solutions.
Exactly. And this is my point. If a regular person like you had the humbleness, first of all, to recognize mistakes, because we all were ignorant at some times. Ignorance, as I say, can be fixed. When we don't know the facts, we can be deceived. And that's fine. It's human. It's forgiveness. I mean, no problem. I was ignorant too. I voted for Bush too. And of course, after the first time I voted for him, I understood. After I understood the fraud of 9/11 and the false wars and all the Patriot Act and things, I pretty much changed my tune. But the point is, if a person like Chelene decided to step up for her children and for our generation to start to say something, even just being out there and have a little talk radio or a blog talk, doesn't matter, or talking to your friends and neighbors, every one of us can do the same. Chelene, I want to hug you and thank you very much, my friend. And please, let's be in touch, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Luca. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. You've been listening, and you're still listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Don't go away. We have other guests, and second hour is going to be all about guns and some very interesting show from the range. Don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. And we are back to the show. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. The news that we heard so far, this amnesty, de facto amnesty by Obama, it is not something that we just can put behind and forget about it. This is so important. My dear fellow Americans, I don't care if you are Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independent, even if you don't care about any party. If you understand that now we have, regardless if you believe or not in this type of form of immigration, that for me it is not an immigration, it's pretty much an invasion, but regardless your position on immigration, okay? If you believe that we still have a system as it's supposed to be as a republic, with 3 branches of government, that's the most important thing. Now, we have today the proof that one man with the power of his pen pretty much can create laws. And this man is supposed to be the man in charge of the executive branch of the government. So, this is very important. This is supposed to freak out every man, every woman, regardless your political affiliation. Obama today is pretty much saying that he is king, is the new Caesar. Hail Caesar, and weep for the death of America and what used to be a republic. And don't get me wrong, other people before Obama, they've been using executive orders, but this never was the intent of the executive order. This is something completely away. And it's been gradually. I agree with that. Obama was supposed to be impeached a long time ago. But now, this is blatant, to give completely amnesties to millions of illegal aliens. And I say again, you will see the repercussion in your economy, in your labor, wages, welfare, schools, crimes, but more important, when they're going to be able to vote. This is like masses, that they will be completely brainwashed, like most of the masses anyway, and they will try to use this masses, the globalists, the New World Order, we use these masses through the media, the propaganda, to completely destroy every individual rights we have left. So, I need to pretty much, this is what happened when the people like that, like Mr. President Obastard, and not just him, Congress pretty much is being also participant and as a partner in crime. Let's see now really Congress what is going to do. Now let me tell you something. When people say, okay, look, we're talking about immigration, but the show is about guns. Let me tell you something, guys. If you do not understand that if this amnesty and these millions of new potential voters will be allowed to stay legally in this country, our gun rights will be gone forever. And the only way you're going to be able to keep them is to fight for. And I'm talking about fight physically, because they will come to your home. They already have, and this is not under Obama, there was under Bush. Homeland Security is being recruiting Boy Scouts after 9/11 to train them. And this was an article on People magazine, you can Google it, to train these young people, young men and women in their early 16 years, when they're teenagers, to shoot down veterans and Americans that would not surrender their weapons. And if you look at these photos that you can see anyway on People magazine, you will see that some of these Homeland Security trainees or potential, thugs in training, they're, by the way, not an accident, Hispanics. And nothing goes against the Hispanics. I have a lot of friends from everywhere around the world. But the problem is, it's statistics. They will use these new sort of immigrants, like they call them, legalize new immigrants. Many of them, they will find job in the government, with the government. Because the government, the state, will be their family. They've already been trained and educated by FEMA, all these thousands of Guatemalan children, as the president called them. They are not children, they're already pretty much grown-up men, to be educated by FEMA, and they will be completely recruited. Because we know when they're going to start to have the final plan, the final takeover, to come after your property, after your guns, after your rights. Maybe our soldiers, they're going to be pretty much overseas like they already are, and they will not do what these people coming from another culture, another country, especially after this government is being giving to them all these benefits. And this is not a conspiracy, this is a fact. It's been used in history always. Okay? Let's not forget, even during the Revolutionary War, the British had to hire the Hussians, the mercenaries, people from another country. So now today, we share all this bad news, but I need to go back to some good news. First good news is, screw Obama. And I'm having a beautiful dish of pasta here. Let's see if you can hear my plate, my fork, and Obama, you are an ass. Let me tell you something. The best revenge against our enemies is to live well. So, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm aware of Obama. I'm aware of the New World Order, this amnesty, this act of tyranny. And because of all this, while I'm trying to do my duty to share this information with you, my fellow Americans, I must have a beautiful bottle of wine. Red wine from Italy. Organic, of course. And some spaghetti recipe that I will share with you. Because, as I said, at the end of the day, we must live the day, enjoy the day, and fight another battle tomorrow. So, let's not desperate, let's have faith. Meanwhile, let's enjoy life. And today's recipe, it is spaghetti with goat cheese. It's such incredible, simple, delicious recipe. I already cooked it, so, but I'm enjoying it now. Let me tell you how to make it, okay? Meanwhile, let me get a bite. Again, screw Obama and all the bastards in Congress that allow such a behavior. I hope this pasta in Italy was alla faccia tua. Now I'm going to drink and eat alla faccia tua, on your face. Okay? I wrote, by the way, a little bit of a phrase before we go ahead with the pasta recipe about Obama, President Obastard. If you hear noises that I'm enjoying spaghetti with goat cheese, and I'll tell you how to make them. Alla faccia di Obama and all the New World Order fascist. Okay, I wrote this little phrase. May the gates of hell burn your sorry Marxist stinky ass while you are swallowed in the abysses of the sewers of darkness, President Obastard. This is the first reaction after I heard, because I didn't watch, I don't have TV anymore, I heard the speech of his pretty much act of tyranny, this amnesty. So, let me say again, may the gates of hell burn your sorry Marxist stinky ass while you are swallowed in the abysses of the sewers of darkness, President Obastard. Yes. And to cheer you up, let me get a glass of wine. Just to let you know, FCC, you can kiss my butt too, because I'm not here maneuvering my equipment. I am drinking and having a show, and I'm not touching anything, so I can drink, okay? Don't get excited. Now, let's enjoy this beautiful pasta recipe. First of all, you need spaghetti. I always suggest you to find the best spaghetti out there. There are a lot of brands, very easy to find. Barilla, that's fine. It's not my favorite. De Cecco, you can find it at Walmart. Pretty good stuff. Better than Barilla. Anyway, get some good spaghetti. Get some goat cheese. The most natural goat cheese you can find, okay? Try to get something without any type of preservatives or chemical names. Now, how much spaghetti, how much goat cheese? Let's say at least you want to get 1 pack of spaghetti. Normally I eat that by myself, but you can share at least with 4 people. 1 pound of spaghetti and let's say at least ½ pound of goat cheese. Okay? Very simple. Cook the spaghetti, boil the spaghetti, and what do? You want to also prepare a little tomato sauce. That would be the best way to do it. But today I'll do it with the simplest way. So simple, no even the tomato. Cook the spaghetti. At that point, when the spaghetti are ready, al dente, as you know, I already told you how to make them. Don't forget to put some salt. You want to salt the spaghetti, the water, okay? Not too much, because otherwise you may have too much. It's better add later if you have to. At that point, you drain the spaghetti, okay? What do? You leave a little bit of water. You don't want to completely drain the spaghetti completely dry. You want to leave at least some residual hot water from the spaghetti boiling. At that point, you put back the spaghetti in the pot, okay? With a little bit of water, you get the goat cheese. And just to be sure I spell it right, and you understand I'm talking about the animal, the goat, G-O-A-T, the goat cheese. You put it in this spaghetti, in the pot, still warm. There is the water. You mix it. You sprinkle some ground pepper. Simple as that. This is going to be just ground pepper and goat cheese. Ready to go. You will have this sort of a cream created by the spaghetti with the goat cheese and the pepper. The simple flavors are going to be very strong. The goat cheese is a good flavorly cheese. And melted with the water is going to be like a cream. And this ground pepper, get good ground quality pepper, is going to be perfect. Right now, I'm enjoying it. And as I said, let me give another bite. Alla faccia di Obama. I don't know if you can really translate alla faccia di Obama, but on the face of the bastard, traitor, fascist. And by the way, people say, oh, he's a Marxist. He's the same, guys. But technically, he's a fascist because he's working for the corporations. Mussolini, Benito Mussolini, defined fascism as the union between the corporations and the state. The healthcare, Obamacare, and all these things, they are for the corporations. Even this amnesty is not for the American people. What do you think? Corporations, they will have more slaves, jobs, more slave labors. You, American, you're going to pretty much compete now with 6 million people. And your wages, if you were working for minimum wages, you got to pretty much fight now, more than ever. So, think about it. Think about this. Anyway, enough about Obama, enough about this. Let's talk a little bit about news now, okay? Let me finish, first of all, this glass of wine, because... By the way, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. And as I said, we will talk about guns the last hour. But if we don't talk about what's happening to our rights, to our political life, it's all connected. If we lose this republic, if we lose this country at the polls, there are not going to be more guns. The only gun's going to be the one that you're going to fight, use, and not going to be at the range anymore. It's going to be in the streets. And I don't want that. Seriously. So, since I'm in the mood of short speeches and short phrases, I brought another little phrase. I think it's pretty important, pretty hermetic, pretty synthetic. Short speech to the new generations of Americans. You are screwed. Simple as that. I'm sorry, guys. And this is happening under our watch. If we don't do something right now, the next generation of Americans, not only they're going to live with billions and trillions of unpayable debt, quadrillions, 17 trillions, this is just the one we have right now, without counting the Social Security and Medicare and all this stuff. So, think about also what type of country we're going to be leaving behind. So, seriously, I really mean it. Now, let's look a little bit about news. What's happening right now at the White House, it is the most important thing, but let's not forget also what's happening around America, because it is not just there. We still have, first of all, a situation with the Supreme Court. People don't understand that, or maybe don't understand, we forgot. Some of you, of course, understand that I don't care. The Supreme Court is still made by human beings, and these humans do not give us rights. Even they're supposed to be experts, okay, in Constitution. Doesn't mean they cannot be corrupted. Let's look, for example, I found this article, it's pretty disturbing, really, what this Supreme Court has been doing in the last few years, completely destroying our rights. So, let's not forget the Supreme Court also during history of America pretty much said that slavery was okay. I would have not complied with that. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. For example, now, according to the Supreme Court, police officers can use lethal force in car chases without fear of lawsuits. This was with Plumhoff against Richard, 2014. The court declared that police officers who use deadly force to terminate a car chase were immune from a lawsuit. So, different standards. I may understand that the, point of view that officers, they're trying to do what they have to do, but there is also sometimes some sort of lack of accountability, okay? For example, another one from the Supreme Court that pretty much says that the police officers can stop cars based only on anonymous tips. That was never read against California. So, anonymous tips, that's pretty scary. I should be able to face my accusers. Another one, Secret Service agents are not accountable for their actions as long as they're done in the name of security. That was Wood against Moss, 2014. Pretty much now you give immunity to the Secret Service for everything they're doing, just because they have to do it under the name of security. That's pretty unbalanced, okay? Now, another one, citizens have a right, they have only a right to remain silent if they assert it. Wow. Salinas against Texas, 2013. That person who are not under arrest must specifically invoke their Fifth Amendment. Wow. Let me get another glass of wine. And there's so much more. So, let's not forget, if you want to take over a country, there are different ways. You can use tanks, you can use armies, you can also use some few paychecks, or excuse me, few checks, corrupting or blackmailing, few members of Congress, some judges, of course, the president's office is for sale, and then what you have, a new America under our eyes. Now, I would like to remind a couple of things that, regardless of all this hell we're going through, that I really would like to share with the listeners. First of all, there is freedomlovers.us. This is very important. It's a website I launched a few months ago, and if you believe, if you love freedom, and if you want to find like-minded singles to become friends, lovers, maybe even something more, or even just to network. Go to freedomlovers.us. It's completely free. You can create an account and pretty much start to chat and meet like-minded people. Upload your photos, upload your videos. It's amazing. It's really nice. 100% free. And freedomlovers.us, I hope you can go there and enjoy the service. And let's find each other, because this is the time. Then I also would like to remind another important thing. It is the contest, okay? It's Don't Trade on Us contest, okay? You can win. One lucky person will be able to win a $15,000 front sight diamond membership. Pretty amazing. You can go to Front Sight Nevada, the #1 firearms institute, the rest of your life and enjoy every class they will offer at the offering, from handgun to shotgun, rifle, advanced rifle, machine guns, empty hands, knives, rappelling. I mean, it's amazing. Self-defense. Forever, this membership normally costs $15,000. You can have it for free. How to do it? Very simple. My song, Don't Tread on Us by Luca Zanna. Download that song. You can find it for free on YouTube. Or if you really want to help me out, and I appreciate it, go to my website, www.zanna.us, or even just on Amazon, iTunes, doesn't matter. Just find the song, Don't Tread on Us by Luca Zanna. 99 cents. That's it. Download it and create a YouTube video with anything that may inspires you. Listen to the lyrics, understand it, pretty much the philosophy behind the songs, the message I try to put out, and create your own video using the song as a soundtrack. Then upload the video on YouTube and just put in the title, Don't Trade on Us Contest, Luca Zanna, okay? And once you upload the video, Don't Trade on Us, send me the email with the link of that video to me. You can find my email here at this website, lovegunsfreedom.com, or just directly to my email, zanna@zanna.us. The deadline enter is December the 31st, okay, 2014. I will select a lucky winner that will win this $15,000 free diamond membership at Front Sight. Also, the first 20 participants, they will get a free CD of Don't Tread on Us. So this is pretty much right there. Now, sorry guys, today was kind of, I was pretty heavy on this amnesty. It is not just because I'm a former legal immigrant and I feel pretty embarrassed and tired and stressed out and disappointed and frustrated to think that me, like millions of legal immigrants like myself, had to go through what we had to go through to become citizens and even just to be residents here. And we have now a man with the power of a pen pretty much insulting the all nations and at the same time creating a precedent of a complete tyranny. So I'll leave you now with a little song. Don't go away. We go in for the final hour number 3. We will talk about guns, rifles. We need that now more than ever. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. Ciao.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit FreedomLovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. FreedomLovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really...
Here we are back. This is the final hour. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on Guerrilla Media Network. This is the hour where pretty much I enjoy the most. It's all about guns. Guns equal for me freedom. And today, we try to be really proactive because at the end of the day, there are things that we cannot change. We're here, we try to prevent this pretty much complete corruption of our political system and social system. But there are some things, unfortunately, it's out of our reach for now. We try, and we'll still try, okay? I always say have a B plan. And I really believe that the Second Amendment, at the end of the day, it's the final plan. Emergency plan. It's for every day's life problem, could be criminals, but more important, I really believe now we are facing something major, bigger than just regular criminality. We're talking about complete disruption and destruction of this society, and also level of tyranny that is going to be pretty much up to us. The American people define the final line in the sand to pretty much stop tyranny. So that's pretty much what I would like to say. Now, today, I would like to start with, it's not going to be just in this show. We're going to have probably a few episodes, few shows, and I would like to share with you through the radio, through this media, through the audio files. You'll be able to listen, of course, on K-Talks 1340 AM, on Guerrilla Media Network, or on my website, lovegunsfreedom.com, pretty much about how to become a rifleman. And why? Because having a rifle does not make you a rifleman. Let's be straight. You can have all the rifles you want, but it doesn't mean that you are a rifleman. Let's start, first of all, to understand what exactly means to be a rifleman. For me, being a rifleman, in my opinion, it is, first of all, before even it is something about technical, it is an act of love. It is an act of will to sacrifice yourself, dedicate yourself to defend good, to defend freedom, and to defend, in this case, America, this United States of America, our republic. So, but technically, the rifleman or riflewoman is a person that is capable to hitting 20 inches targets from 500 yards with a standard rock grade rifle and ammunition. We don't need any special equipment, but skill and knowledge, and of course perseverance, because something you need to pretty much acquire. It's going to take time and persistence. Technically, the rifleman should be able to hit any target you see, he sees or she sees. And it is very important because this is something that we lost. Now, people go to the range, they shoot on benches, and they think just because they can hit a target 100 yards, 100 yards, while they're sitting down, they're riflemen. Not even close. Not even close. And the reason why we should be able to do that, because this is pretty much the standard. When I say 20 inches, 20 square inches at 500 yards, means that you're able to shoot at 4 minutes of angles. We talk here about minutes of angle. We will go through this at the end. During the process of this mini course through the radio of how to become a rifleman. Now, why this is so important? Because the average shooter out there, the unskilled shooter with a rifle, barely may reach 200 yards with the iron sight. Barely. We're talking about, instead, a qualified rifleman be able to shoot at 500 yards with his rifle with the iron sight. That pretty much puts you in a situation of advantage against the average scumbag out there. Okay? So that's important. Now, let's start first of all with the rifle, because there are many rifles out there, okay? And as I said, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, if we want to be able to reach this 500 yards standard, it's kind of a distance, 500 yards with the rifle, especially if you go with the iron sight, okay? So there are many rifles out there. There are different platforms, different type of calibers. If I had to choose two rifles only, to learn this skill, how to become a rifleman, first of all, I would start with a 22 rifle, and don't get me wrong, this is you're not going to shoot 22 rifle 500 yards, but it's going to give you the opportunity to master the techniques, how to pretty much shoot at 25 yards, 4 minutes of angle, with scaled down Army qualification test. Let me explain. There are some targets that, by the way, I post on my website. Go to lovegunsfreedom.com. Go to today's show. It's November the 23rd, 2014. And you will find out in the page PDF files, 2 PDF files, that you can download a print that shows you pretty much at 25 yards what means shooting at 4 minutes of angle. One is a 1 square inch that when you post a target at 25 yards, it's like you're shooting the same type of sight picture of a target at 500 yards. So instead, before even we become riflemen shooting at 500 yards, and before even we try to learn that skill, they would take, of course, a lot of time for verification and also ammunition, talking about center-fire ammunition, kind of expensive and time-consuming. Just think about walking over and back and forth 500 yards, even with a binocular, to find out what you're doing. Instead, you start to train with your 22 rifle at 25 yards, and we can do exactly the same type of marksmanship exercises. Now, if you had to choose a 22 rifle, there are many choices out there. That's fine. I tell you what I like the most, but more important, what you should find in that 22 rifle. You should have, first of all, a sling. You want a rifle that you can put a sling. The sling, it is not something just to carry the rifle. It is something very important for accuracy. It is fundamental, honestly, especially if you want to reach that type of standard, okay? So, any 22 rifle that you can put a sling is going to work. My favorite rifle, though, it is the Ruger 1022, and I will post some photos on my rifle with the modified front sight and rear sight, the aftermarket sights, okay? It really help you because you're going to have the same sight picture like an M14. Now, coming down to the real center-fire combat rifle to defend freedom, to defend your castle, to defend your person and your family, and this republic, in case we have to. If I had to choose one rifle and one rifle only, first of all, of course, we want to have center fire, and I would use and choose a rifle chamber in 7.62. 7.62 by 51 NATO or 308 Winchester, or even a 30-06. But as I said, there are, for me, the rifle that really the cartridge that can give me the opportunity to reach out 500 yards and also go through barriers. And if I had to choose one rifle only, that means that this pretty much going to be the only rifle I have. For self-defense or survival, hunting, doesn't matter. 7.62 by 51 for me is the round. The reason why is, first of all, it's a standard, it's a NATO standard. You can find it everywhere. Differently from the 30-06 Springfield, that used to be a gray round, especially with the M1 Garand. The problem that the round is pretty much now going down. I mean, it's almost hard to find out. It's just for hunting purposes. Instead, a 7.62 by 51, it's a standard, still used by the military. So I will stick with that. If you have, of course, other options, if you want to go into the Russian world, 7.62 by 54 Russian, for example, for the Mosina gun, or the Romak, that would be the Dragunov, the Romanian version of the Russian Dragunov. That's another great round. Now, from there, you start to go down. 7.62 by 39. It's the typical round for the AK-47 or SKS. Nothing wrong with that round, but I'm telling you, when you start to go through after the 300 yards, you're not going to have the same penetration, and more important, the same reach, and the same type of ballistic that you have with the 308. It starts to go really way down. So, for the rifleman, quarter-mile rifleman, 500 yards, definitely I would suggest you 7.62 by 51 or 7.62 by 54 Russian. About the 5.56 NATO or 2.23, typical in the R15, don't get me wrong, yes, people can reach easily 500 yards with that round. The problem is that, let's be honest, you start to have really much of lack of penetration and really power. So after all, you're talking about 62 grain, and after 200 yards, you lose much of a speed. And I don't think you can do all the things you were able to do, especially if there is wind. I wouldn't feel that comfortable to have just a 5.56 NATO as my only rifle. So, if I had to choose one rifle only, after I got my 22 rifle, in this case I said it was the Ruger 1022 with some modification and the sling, my rifle would be the M14, or also M1A. Okay? Now, technically the M1A, it is the US military short version of the M14. I mean, the military, they call it M14. In the civilian market, it's M1A. Now, people say, but what's about the M1 Garand? Great rifle. Don't get me wrong. I have right now with me one. You can hear the typical noise. It is pretty much the father of the M14 or the M1A. Only problem is, if you have an M1 Garand, and normally they were chambered in 30-06. And nothing wrong with that. If you have like 50,000 rounds of that caliber, at least, that's fine. But since they're hard to get and more expensive to buy, I would like to have, like I have, my M1A, M1 Garand chamber in 308, 7.62 by 51. So at least I know that I can find these rounds everywhere. By the way, I have no problems with this sort of rechambering this rifle. It's been working great. I got the spacer, head spacer, working great. Now, differences between M14 and M1 Garand. First of all, the M14 is the advanced version of the M1 Garand, as you know. First of all, there is a magazine. You have 20 rounds magazine, okay? Then you have a flash hider. And you have some little bit of basic aesthetical differences, but not that much. But the main difference is this 20 rounds magazine and the flash hider. Now, it makes a difference. If you can, it's always better to have an exchangeable magazine. But there is also a down. For example, the M1 Garand, first of all, you can still find it on the civilian marksmanship program for about $700. It's a very affordable price compared to at least $1,300 for the standard M1A or M14, like from Springfield Armory. Then the magazines. The magazine, it's an incredible little tool, 20 rounds, especially if you got good magazine, it's a must way. It's the way to go. But it's still expensive for many people, especially if you want to get the good stuff. And the only thing I would suggest would be Checkmate, at least $25 for magazine, or Springfield Armory, that pretty much is the same. It costs about almost $50. So, considering every rifle normally, I would suggest at least to have 20 magazines. So, here we go. A few more money. The M1 Garand, instead, you do not need any magazine. You have these clips that you can load up with 8 rounds. And by the way, if you practice, you can be very effective 8 rounds semi-auto, easy to interchange. It takes a second really to put it back in. So there's, as I said, Do and Pro. If you can buy, I would buy both. I would buy an M14 and I would buy also an M1 Garand chamber in the same round as your M14, means 308. So that's the story. Now, people like your AK-47, that's fine. You like your R-15, that's fine. You like your SKS, that's fine. Whatever you have to start to train as a rifleman. Even if your rifle maybe cannot perform at 500 yards, because as I said, in AK-47, it's going to be kind of difficult to keep your group in 20 square inches, working at 4 minutes of angle at 500 yards. But work in the same type of marksmanship, try to achieve the same type of 4 minutes of angle, at least at your basic reach distance, like 200 yards or 300 yards. Now, this is pretty much now a little bit about rifles, okay? Now, I don't want to focus too much now all just about the rifles, because at this point, as I said, any rifle does it. If you can do it, the man is going to make the difference, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about a very important part of to become a rifleman. It is the sling. First of all, the rifleman does not shoot from a bench. We don't use benches. Can you imagine World War II, our soldiers going in the jungles, bringing with them a bench on their back? Doesn't exist. This bench idea is pretty much like a waste of time, in my opinion, waste of ammunition, and not realistic at all. Because even in your home, your castle, or whatever you are, to defend your family, normally you don't shoot from a bench. Even if you're shooting from a window, I don't think you're going to have a bench. So let's start to think about how to shoot as a rifleman. 3 basic positions: prone, sitting, and standing. Okay? And each position has different practical applications. They are based on distance of target, terrain, and pretty much time for preparation. So, for example, standing, it is the last stable position, but is also the faster. You walk with your rifle and you have your standing position. Let's say you're hunting, you're walking around, you're running around. Sitting, of course, you start to have much more stability. Only thing that you need to also think that you need to get out, and you have pretty much more time to move from that position. And then, of course, the most stable of all position is prone. And we will go there. But regardless, whatever position you use, one of the best way to achieve your stability and to achieve accuracy, you need to try to have some components, some basic things down. You must pretty much avoid to use your muscles as much as possible. It is not about strength, it's not about muscles. Because remember, muscles become tired and unstable. Instead, you want to work with these 3 positions, prone, sitting, and standing, using your bone, your structural bones, as a sort of a support mechanism. In addition, just to let you know, you must think that this sling, it is part of your body, okay? It's going to become part of your body. Now, let's listen to 1 second to a second, and we come back. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna.
Our fathers gave us freedom and the right to defend it. Politicians, United Nations, it won't change the Constitution of our nation. We are free people, and for freedom we'll fight. We'll never give up our right. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. free people with the freedom to defend our rights. To be defenseless doesn't help the sheep. Why should it help a human from thugs and creeps? And people disarm, only free to cry. Remember the Nazi, how many innocents died? The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. The oppressive state first politely will ban your right, then with violence they'll keep you quiet. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself. The Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to be free, the right to defend yourself.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman,
I'm not afraid.
and a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth,
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Luca Zanna
I'm not afraid.
and his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Luca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. I am back from the range. It was windy day, by the way, here in Mojave County, Arizona, and I was testing today my M1 Garand. Chamber in 308, 762 by 51. As I was saying, that would be the rifle, the 762 by 51. Any rifle that would be chambered in that round would be for me the ideal rifle. And when I say semi-auto rifle like the M1 Garand or the M1A, also M14, the civilian version of the M14, that would be my main battlefield rifle. Now, continue a little bit this conversation because we're going to go through different stages. First of all, think about it. You go out. And you're not going out just for shooting at the range, with shooting at targets. You go out shooting for freedom, to defend your country, to defend your property, to defend your life. You're going to have more than just a rifle. I hope you got this visualized in your mind, because just a rifle with a couple magazines, that's probably not all you need. Think about it. If there are different scenarios in your life, but as a basic, whenever you have a rifle, you should have a rig, some sort of let's say, equipment that you can wear, something that you can wear on you, like some sort of vest that you can wear, or a belt that you can carry the basic things you need. For example, first of all, you need a rifle, and then you need ammunition. In case you have M14 or any type of rifle with a magazine fed, you need extra magazines. And then you should have also an extra stack of ammunition, that they are loose ammunition. Now, how many ammunitions? It depends what you're facing. But at the average rifle, no matter what rifle, no matter what situation, even sometimes if you live in some rural area, and there are some criminals that may try to pretty much home invasion or try to really come and get you, and you're by yourself, you need more than just probably 20 rounds magazines. Normally, the average gunfight ends with 2 or 3 rounds. That's true. But we're talking about different scenarios. We're talking about could be something that one day you may really have the call to come and save this republic or save your fellow Americans from tyranny. So you better start to visualize that. This is not just going to shooting at the range Sunday afternoon with your family and friends and bringing your drink of sodas or whatever you drink and your carbonated water and your cigar. You better get your stuff together now. So with your rifle, I would suggest at least to have at least 200 rounds. Of course, if you have like smaller calibers like 5.56, you need to at least double that with magazines if you have to, or clips in case you have an M1 Garand, with a belt or some sort of a vest that you feel comfortable and you can pretty much use and be able to use. Then don't forget water, the second thing you need. If you go in a gunfight, you may be out for hours. You never know. Water, especially if you live in a desert environment, pretty much you need a lot and soon. So bring water. Camelback would be a great idea. Regular also surplus canteens would be good there too. Then don't forget, for example, some lubrificant for your rifle and a cleaning kit. That would be the next important thing. And then at that point, I would also have a little backpack that you can always keep things, the basic things you need, like, for example, extra ammunition, extra water, of course, your headset, okay, for ear protections, and then, of course, a snack, maybe a power bar, a medical kit, very important thing. You don't need to spend much money. You can get a pretty much like a surplus backpack for $10 also, okay? Great places like you can go to sportsmanguy.com. They got incredible Swiss Army waterproof backpack for about $10, $12. Good stuff. That would be your first thing. When you start to think you want to become a rifleman, even before you start to completely achieve your marksmanship, you need to start to think like it. So get your rifle clean, get your rifle that you know it very well, able to assemble, disassemble it, and start to get your ammunition, your magazine, or whatever way you have to feed this rifle, and start to get the things that you need. Now, clothing. Normally, when you shoot as a rifleman, you're going to need to go lay down on prone. You're not going to carry around with you, let's say, a mat, okay? You're going to go down anywhere you are, everywhere you are. Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's hard. So I would start to suggest you to start to think that you have a pair of pants and a jacket that has some sort of a natural protection for your knees and your elbows. There are some military or even regular rifleman jackets that really have good padding for your elbow. They're really important. And your knees. Also for some pants. Or just use some sort of a padding material that normally you can buy. Try to get the one soft. Don't get the one with a plastic shell that normally they are with this sort of plastic material, because plastic, hard on hard, you do not really, you cannot put yourself very firm on the ground. You want to be soft on hard. So normally the best way to pad your knees and elbows, they are this sort of soft protection that you can pretty much put around the part. Don't use those hard plastic shell stuff. They're going to make you unstable. Even a small half inch of movement when you are on the ground, that would become pretty much a miss when you're shooting, for example, at 300, 400, 500 yards. Seriously. So all these little things, a protection for your head also, for the sun, and also for concealment. Get your hat. A good pair of glasses that can give you protection from the sun. They're all small things that are going to really be helping you when you really finalize that this rifleman that we try to achieve, the status of rifleman, this is not for sport. This is really to defend your life, your castle, and your country. Hopefully we're never going to be there, but now this is the time to prepare. So, just to give you an idea, that was pretty much before even we go into the rifle. To prepare yourself. Then don't forget shoes. You must have boots, comfortable, that you can walk for hours if you have to, and you won't already break them down, okay? You don't have brand new boots that they're going to pretty much give you, problems to your feet. They can't walk. Now, rifle, I would spend as much money as I can to a rifle. I wouldn't focus on the handgun. You can get a good handgun for a few $100s, like for example, a good Glock for $500, top. But a rifle, whatever rifle you want to go, put your money there. Remember, no war was ever won with a handgun. Freedom was always fought with rifles. Now, of course, we're talking about the new technology, the new millennium, the new world order. They have drones and they have satellite. Fine. They're still fine. But will they still fear humans with knowledge and guts and rifles? Even I don't agree, of course, on their beliefs, but let's look in the history of Afghanistan. Look how people with armor with old rifles, they were able to keep pretty much at large and defend their countries against the English Empire and even the Russians and the Americans. Okay? I mean, after all, that was their country, regardless. Now, we know that some is a scam, some is true, whatever. Leave them there, we are here. But the point is, if you have a gut, if you have a heart, if you know how to use your rifle, and you're not afraid to stand up for freedom, that still means something to me. Now, sling. We were talking about the sling. When you have your rifle, no matter what rifle you have, we need to work with the sling. As I said, the sling, it is more than just carrying the rifle. The sling is primarily to be used as a shooting tool. Okay? So, you want to use good slings. I would suggest you to use the USGI web sling. That's the best. That's the way you want to use. Okay? There are different ways to pretty much adjust it. I would like to focus on the sling on the next time, but it's very important that you start to understand that the sling, it is not just a tool to carry your rifle, but it's going to increase your accuracy at least 15-20%. Now, let's start with the prone position, okay? The prone position is the most stable position. Pretty much is the position normally where I pretty zero all my rifles. And I do not zero rifles from a bench, because normally you don't shoot from a bench. So you want to zero your rifles from the position of normally you would shoot. Now, remember, you want to stay on the ground and you do not want to involve any muscle at all. You want to use your bones as a structure, okay? Now, there are two sides you want to look at the prone position. One is the trigger side, pretty much where you have the hand that you squeeze the trigger, and then there is called the support side, the other side. Okay, let's look, for example, at the factors that we need to achieve when we do this prone position with your rifle. First of all, you want to have, this is very important, you support elbow, okay, under the rifle. That's very important. Number one thing, completely perpendicular. Number two, you want to have the support hand, the one is holding the rifle, relaxed. Not trembling, no holding, just relax, like a taco almost, okay? Hold that rifle. Then you want to have the sling behind your support wrist. And as I said, I will show you exactly better how to use this sling. Now, the sling must be snug. You don't want too tight, okay? And you want the sling well up on support arm. And I will show you how to do it. And by the way, there are 3 different ways to use the sling. As I said, we will look at that next time. Now, the support side leg, okay, the one that pretty much is on your firing side, the one is on your other side, the support side leg, you want to have it in line with your spine, okay? You want to be about 35 degree facing the target, 35 degree. No, you don't want to be straight for straight. That's important. Your trigger side leg, okay, that means the leg that is on this trigger side, you want to bend at your knee, You want your knee as up as possible. That really helps the recoil, to manage the recoil. Now, the trigger side, elbow, that means the elbow that you have on your trigger side, you want to plant it firmly, okay? In the ground, of course. Now, sometimes all these things seems difficult to say, but it's much easier just to see it. I will do a little YouTube and I will upload it on today's show, the November the 23rd, 2014, on lovegunsfreedom.com, okay? Now, final thing, you have your trigger hand firm as an handshake. That means the hand is holding the stock. You want pretty much holding the stock firm, not trembling, firm as a handshake. Now, finally, your neck extended. They call it turkey neck, okay? On this stock of the rifle. And the cheek planted on the stock. It's called the cheek weld. Now, we have some factors that we need to analyze a little bit when it comes down to pretty much work on this prone position. Your support elbow under the rifle. It's very important. The support elbow should be directly under the rifle. This is for at least two reasons. First of all, when the elbow is under the rifle, the muscles are not being used. That's very important. If the elbow is to the side of the rifle, muscles start to become part of the equation, and you don't want that. Muscles get tired. You want consistency. You want to always be there, regardless if you're tired or not. When the elbow is under, the rifle rests on the bone of the hand and is supported by the forearm bone, which is in contact with the ground at the elbow. No muscle are needed at all. Now, it's very important that we start to think, for example, that the most important thing when you want to become a rifle, at least two. One is to be consistent. Consistent means you create accuracy. And also, you never give up. A rifleman never quit. He continues. It's like a challenge. Think it's about like it's a challenge with yourself, okay? So it is very important. It's like a journey. It's like some sort of a martial art. It is. Then, let's look at the support hand. The support hand, the one is holding the rifle, must be relaxed. You should never grip the rifle, really, okay? Because if you grip the rifle, you start to put into equations muscle. Keep your support hand relaxed. Now, let's look at the sling behind your support wrist. The sling should be passed behind the support hand, okay? We will say focus on that as again next time, because the sling is like almost another chapter. I really would like to visualize also. I will do a video just about the sling. Now, the support side, the support leg, should be straight in line with your spine. That's very important. Your support foot should be as flat as possible. Your toe should not dig into the ground. That's very important, because if you put your toe into the ground, in or out, doesn't matter. You do not, the point is, if you start to dig in, your foot will start to move and you will affect the all sides. So you want to have your foot not dig into the ground. You want to point it in or out, but not digging in, okay? The trigger side leg must be bent at knee. We talk about it, means that your trigger side leg should be bent at the knee. It's a roughly about 90-degree angle. The higher you can put it up, stretch your leg up, the better. That's why it's important to do all these exercises at home without ammunition as a dry practice, because beyond prone position, unless you're used to it, it requires some flexibility. It's very good for you, by the way. So, remember, your leg bent, your trigger side leg bent as high as possible is the one is going to help to absorb the recoil. Okay? And also it's very important because it lifts your diaphragm off the ground while you keep breathing, and it does not affect your sides. So that's very important. Then, trigger side, elbow planted firmly. Your trigger elbow should not be relied upon to hold you up. Okay, you want to have this trigger side, it's rested on the ground, and allow your trigger finger to function without strain. However, very important, it should be planted firmly in order to not be knocked down by the recoil. So, that's another important thing. Remember, you have the support elbow planted in the ground, and then you have also the trigger side elbow planted firmly too. Now, who's going to hold the rifle, the stock? The trigger hand. You want to keep the trigger hand firm with like a handshake. The trigger hand should not grip the rifle like a garden tool, but should be like light yet firm handshake. That's very important. Now, remember, you want to move the thumb to the trigger side of the stock. It does not need to wrap around the back, okay? Now, the middle ring, and the pinky fingers come in contact with the pistol grip only at the fingertip. Now, the most important part, normally is a mistake that we always do at the beginning, it's your finger, the trigger finger, okay? Your trigger finger should not be in touch with the stock. They call it dragging wood. Because when you drag wood, when you have your finger trigger pretty much touching the stock, you move the whole rifle. So you want almost like bent like a C. That you want to leave in like an air gap between the finger and the stock. That's another, see, they're all like little part of a puzzle. And sometimes, it seems like difficult to think about it, but guess what? It is more difficult to talk about it than just doing it. That's why I say, please, if you want to join me, I'm not an instructor. I'm just a regular guy, probably that knows a little more than the average guy. I'm a distinguished graduate handgun and front sight. I graduated also in rifle and front sight, and I also graduated and qualified with the Army qualification test at Appleseed. Still, I don't call myself a professor. Let's say I'm a professional student. And my goal as an American who is really concerned, and this is my way to say I love you guys. If you're a law-abiding citizen, if you're not an ass, if you're not a jerk, I volunteer my time, normally on weekend, when I don't do the show, come to the range, send me an email, zanna@zanna.us, or just go to my website, lovegunsfreedom.com, and send me an email. And let's go shoot together. And I like to share whatever I know, and I'm sure I can learn from you too. And I hope veterans can come too, because the art and the science of the rifleman, it is one of the most important skills really we need to reevaluate. I don't care how many rifles you have in your safe. At the end of the day, you need one. You have 2 arms, 1 heart. And you need to find a way how to learn to use this tool. And hopefully, we're never going to need to use it. But in case we have to, we'll be ready as a community, as Americans. Regarding our differences, we stand for freedom. We stand for individual rights. And that's all I care. If we understand that, if we believe in the Bill of Rights, I don't care which party you are. We respect each other. That's the bottom line. So, I leave you for today. The final part, the last thing I was going to tell you about, it was the neck extended, okay? They call it turkey neck. So when you're on the prone, the neck should always extend as far as possible. That is important because it's going to develop a consistent sight picture. Remember, I said before, consistency is the key to be consistently accurate. If you want to shoot a blast, bottles at 50 yards, whatever, probably you don't need all this stuff. If you want to get serious and become a rifleman and start to shoot with iron sight, with a regular rack grade rifles, with regular ammunition, 4 minutes of angle. As I said, 25 yards means you're going to shoot at 1 square inch group. Try to do an experiment, put a 1 square inch at 25 yards, and shoot 5 rounds all in that hole. If you do it right already, good for you. I'll be happy to have you on my side. And maybe you can teach us too. If you're not there yet, means there's some job to do. So, the turkey neck is very important. It's not a sandwich. It is just the way you position your neck, okay? And remember, if you do this turkey neck correctly, that means you extend your neck as far as possible, the recoil will not hurt your face. Because your neck is fully extended, the recoil will push back your shoulder and your extended neck will follow, moving with the rifle. These are pretty much the concepts of how to shoot from the prone position. To finalize, remember that the chick must be planted on stock. It's called chick weld. Okay? You want to become almost one thing together, one unit with the rifle. You're going to blend in the metal, the wood, the plastic, and your flesh. You're going to become one thing with your soul. Talking about rifles, I would like to remind you that I don't have rifles to go hunting. I don't have rifles even to defend my persona, because a pistol can do it mostly, and I can do this also by my hands, okay? Rifles are to defend freedom, to defend your country. I believe this is a duty. It's an honor. And now is the time still we have to practice. Don't wait for the crisis. Think about all these things I told you today in this little segment. Seems like a bunch of, why do we need this? Why do you think the Swiss people, the Switzerland, citizens of Switzerland, they practice, and they're civilians, and they keep practicing. Every one of them take care part of the neighborhood. They know what to do. They know how to use the rifle. They know how to communicate. They know how to move. They know where to hide. They know where to attack. Remember, slaves are never armed. And let's show to everybody that in America, we are not slaves. You've been listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna.
Wake up, America, before it's too late. They're trying to make you fade away. They're trying to kill your faith. Every day you're invaded, your soil desecrated. Politicians turn their back. You're under attack. You're under attack. They're trying to erase your borders. The UN wants to give you orders. They're trying to sell your pride. It's time to wake up. Now it's time to fight.